Good evening, everybody. Uh, I know this seems like a really random video that I'm about to do. I know it's been a long time since I last been uploading anything. I had a bunch of exams and shit, but now that's all done. And so I'm finally done school. I'm waiting to get my marks back. And now that that's done, I'll probably be uploading much more, pumping out much more content for you guys, and I hope you guys will enjoy that. In the meantime, I wanted to come back and to explore and talk more about a video that I made quite a while ago. I've put it as unlisted for various reasons regarding the Macedonian crisis that I think will be occurring in years to come. Um, I'm gonna try to sort of retouch about that, and then sort of talk about a more of a broader theme that I've found that we could use. Specifically the demographics in regards to Macedonia and others, and sort of talk about one of what I feel to be a more of a general flaw within the new system of democracy, which has seemed to have largely won from the Cold War. And yeah, so let's get started. Um, so as I said a long time ago, probably like 8 or 9 months ago, I talked about Macedonian statistics. Um, Macedonia, for those that don't know, also known as the former Yugoslav Republic of Macedonia, was part of Yugoslavia, and joined them after, I think, 1917, the Kingdom, Croats, Slovenes. And, well, today Macedonia has become a very much of a diverse state. Um, and so, what I explored in my video back then, and I'm just giving a brief rundown, stupid fucking guys, uh, is uh, is the notion of demographics and how they change, and how that can be a very big problem for them. So, for an example, if we look at this map here from 1961 regarding the ethnic composition within Macedonia, you can see there is a sizable Turkish minority and a sizable Albanian minority in 1961. I believe the numbers were around like 17.6% for Albanians, and from that to 2002, we can see a definite flip going on where there's more Albanian majority areas, and we can see more encroachment here in the bottom. Definitely more over here in this sort of the northern section of Macedonia or Fyrom, and definitely a change, a big flip here into more Albanian dominated areas, as well as a depopulation in some of these districts that were previously populated by Macedonians, perhaps through urbanization. Um, so from there, I went to this one link that I found, StatsGov MK. That's the natural population change from the Republic of Macedonia State Statistical Office. 20, and this is from 2014. If you can see here, the main sections, it talks all about, like, oh my gosh, just a bunch of various different stuff. But the two most important things that I centered my video around was T4, T04, which is live births by ethnic affiliations of mother and father, and had looked at the ethnic affiliation in total with the mother and father in regards to the Macedonian and Albanian, Turk, Roma, Vlach, Serb, Bosniak, other, and unknown. And these are the total numbers that they've had in regards to live birth with the ethnic affiliation of the family. And so we can definitely see here that so those numbers there: 12,046, 7,299, 1,133, 1,206. I'm referring to these numbers again. 34, 137, 260, 454, and the unknown 1027. I talked in my video how that the other and unknown thing doesn't really make too much sense. Um, and also reflecting upon the video, I believe unknown also covers the Ashkali, who are very sympathetic to the Albanian cause and very much consider themselves to be Albanian. So that is a potential another. But fuck my friends, dude. Potentially another error. That they deliberately sort of hid. Um, so those are the live rates. As you can see, Macedonians still winning out. Obviously, they have a majority, so that makes sense. However, when it comes to the death rates, we can see, the Macedonians have been dying more than they have been, more than the live births, whereas whereas Albanian and Turk are still going out strong, coming out with a positive, as well as Roma. And I believe there is a decline of Vlachs or Bosniak. So uh, I did a I did an Excel PowerPoint or spreadsheet rather some time ago, and had calculated these numbers. So again, I going back the live births as I just previously said, and then the ethnic deaths as I recorded, and said that the total values for the 2014 from what we just saw from the StatGov thing is that the Macedonians have been dying, and Albanians have been growing. Turks, minus 2,670, 4,193, 610, 697, minus 30, negative 278, 197, other unknown 1242, and that's just because it seems like they've sort of mixed them up, and it was very hard um, trying to sort of like figure that out, like I had to add them together and I believe subtract them from their deaths from the, and get that 1242. But again, what does it mean to be an unknown person and another person? Like again, there's the Ashkali and all that other sort of stuff. So it doesn't really make that much sense grouping them together. But anyway, okay. So like I said, so those are those numbers for 2014, and then what I tried to do was I uh, I took those numbers from 2014 and I wanted to plug them in. I wanted to make like my own census for like 2012, for example. So I took those numbers, and again, there's problems with taking those numbers and extrapolating data from them. As like I said earlier, like when your average population is 65, um, and 10 years down the line, a lot of them will die, but then 10 years later from that previous point, when they get 65 to 75, and then from 75 to 85, there's going to be more people dying within the 75 to 85 range than there is to the 65 to 75 range because, life expectancy, and generally you're not supposed to live out that long. Uh, and so there's these inclinations and stuff. So it's not very, too accurate, but it's still good enough. So I took those numbers and I multiplied it by 10. So this is the official census of 2000. Jesus. This is the official census of 2002. That 1,297,981, 509,083, 77,959, 53,879, 9,695, 35,939, 17,018, 14,887, 14,887. That's with the other and unknown together. And I sort of I multiply them by 10. So the estimated census in 2012 that I made, from adding these numbers onto these numbers, is you get, that. So um, so as you can see, those following numbers are there, and you get your total percentages in 2012, which is that the Macedonian statistic is falling, while the Albanian statistic is up 27%, 4% for Turk, going up for Roma 2.9, going down for Vlah, going down for Serb 1.6, up for Bosniak, and for others an unknown. It doesn't really make sense. Again, what is an unknown person? What is an other person? They kind of arbitrarily group them up into this. And then, of course, again, Ashkali was a fairly big number, as I last recall on Wikipedia. They said something like 3,000. So multiply that by 10, 30,000. I believe one should add that to the Albanian statistic, which I did not. So, there's problems there, right? And again, this is 2012. Now 2016, what are the numbers? Probably going to be like 28% now, maybe, for Albanians, and the Macedonian will probably go down, 60 or something like that. Um, and of course, again, like I said in my video, these values are subject to error, and of course there's assimilation, as we saw earlier. This Turkish majority here flipped to Albanian, so is there an assimilation factor that it's not being calculated within this? Probably. Because of the similarities with their religion and how, the Turkish minority, it's hard to really make a big, strong community with only like 5%. So it makes more sense to sort of go with the majority there. Okay, and so to signal that I'm not talking out of my ass, you can look at this Balkan Insight article done by Sinizia Yakov Marusic, which explains exactly what I said. Fertility rates are falling among Macedonia's majority population, while ethnic Albanians steadily gain in numbers. And I will just slowly scroll down here if you are really interested into that. Um, there you go. Oh my God, people. Okay. So of course, when I'm referring to the Macedonian crisis, I'm referring to later on, where the fact but that you know if this is going to be continued, which it will, from numbers, just from what the numbers say, it seems to be that Macedonia may become the third Albanian state in time. Maybe not now, but 20, 30 years down the line, that will happen, and you know that's going to become obviously a big crisis, and clearly nobody is willing to do anything about that. Uh, So, you draw your conclusions from what you will with those numbers. Um, I think that's problematic. I think like if that's going to happen, sure, let that happen, but, because populations have flipped before many times. Look at the Great Serbian Migration into Vojvodina, or I'm trying to think, even settling like in North America, that never used to be English or Canadian or American or Mexican or anything like that until they settled in. Um, and I'm actually gonna touch more about that. So yeah, that was my basic rundown of the Macedonian stuff now, and let me make more of a generalization with that to get maybe to a bigger point. Um, I think eventually, so a side note opinion with my opinion that, like I said, I think it's going to eventually happen, and I think it will make sense that once that does happen, that the country should split in half. Because I mean, this idea of having multiple Albanian states while still calling them in different names like Kosovo, and then what, Illyrida, what you're gonna have like it doesn't make any sense. Which represents the international community's failure to deal with foreign policy, which has led to many disasters. Because they just arbitrarily create borders which don't reflect the populations there. Pardon me. Um, so that's fun, and so yeah, we're gonna see a nice, fun time in the Balkans soon in Macedonia, like we are sort of now. So taking these numbers, um, this is Spark Notes here, and it seems like I'm going really off base here. Um, to talk about democracy here, and this is relevant, is that like I said earlier, 60, 70 years down the line, Macedonia, freaking get away from me. Macedonia obviously was largely Macedonia. Fyrom, we can discuss about that issue with the naming thing and how they claim to be Macedonian when they're not really Bulgarian. Anyway, but then like 80, 90 years down the line, they won't be. Um, because of population changes. And so what that reflects is what Mill called, years ago in his book on liberty. John Stuart Mill on liberty, a great utilitarian and very well known in liberal arts, and he talks about it and he calls this thing the tyranny of the majority, which is that the majority rules over the minority. Uh, so like again, the Macedonians had a tyranny of the majority, could do whatever they wanted with the Albanians because they had the majority. But then when the populations will change, now the Albanians will have the majority. And that can, cause many problems because it hurts the underdog here. Um, and so, like examples of this, um, we can see, like for example, Israel. I know it is a very contested sort of thing among people, but it does stand truth that 60, 70 years down the line, Israeli settlers slowly coming in, into a largely Arab Palestinian majority, and from settlements, uh, legal or illegal. I think illegal, being honest. The demographics have changed, and it's become a largely uh, Israeli society, Jewish society, quote unquote. And now it's just a matter of time before the Palestinians, sort of lose out to these illegal settlements to try to change the culture of Israel to be a homogenous state. And again, here's another more vivid map of what's going on. And this reflects the UN resolutions and the demographics and how they've changed. Uh, Another example of this that we can see these demographical changes is in Kaliningrad. So Kaliningrad was at one point part of it's right by Poland, and then between Lithuania. Jesus Christ, Poland is fucking big on the map. I never noticed that they were that big. Um, and it's an exclave, enclave. I think they call it an exclave. Not too sure. But it's this small piece of land that Russia now owns. That is largely Russian majority. However, years ago, it was called Königsberg by Prussia. Fuck off, my friends. It was settled by Germans in Prussia. However, again, history shows us that, and you can read about this more. This was after World War II. Um, the Soviet Union found the area to be very strategic and wanted to screw over the Germans for what they did, and so they kicked everybody out and/or genocided them, and then just replaced it with a Russian majority. So what do we have here? Oh yes, this is another example of more modern example rather of the sort of genocide that some of these communities face, and it doesn't necessarily have to be genocide, but just reflects the demographical changes. For example, in Bosnia during the Bosnian War, when 300,000 Bosniaks, rather referring to the Bosniak population, had died from the hands of the Serbs because they weren't Serbs, to try to change the numbers. So what do we have here? We have here a big problem when it comes to this democracy. Um, Democracy means everyone, as I said, everybody gets a voice in the entire thing and gets to say whatever they want, or gets a say in things. However, unfortunately, the problem being here is that it seems to me like this sort of democracy has changed to become more of a numbers game more than anything. It's again, at one point, one society was one specific culture, and then through some change or through genocide, they deemed it to be theirs, and then that's it. But that's not necessarily fair, though. One should not be punished for having this uh, sort of, these sort of genocidal events or something, just to try to alter the population and the culture of one region to skew it into your favor. It brings actually two things. One is that democracy is returned into numbers, and then it also says that like history is written by winners and losers, or by winners rather than losers. Um, who's to say of Kosovo's history now when the overwhelming majority of Kosovo is Albanian? It's largely changed. Now, of course, that was due to natural factors, right? Like, I'm not trying to condemn, of course, Kosovo has been disputed with its history and like demographical changes and such. But clearly, a majority from it's there's been a majority from like the 1900s onward to the now really, and their culture has changed, and that was through peace. That was through peace, and that was through natural population rates and all that sort of stuff. But still, it's changed, um, and that's I mean, I think that's a good thing. I'd rather, the voice be given to the majority. Well, sometimes, than the minority. Uh, but it's not to say that the majority is necessarily always right. Um, Again, I can World War II. Everybody wanted to go to war. Well, Hitler had decided everybody that wanted to go to war and blamed it on the Jews. Never, even though they never actually really did anything. Just somebody to blame stuff on. And so yeah, like I said, like it just seems to me like democracy has become a sort of a thing where it's numbers matter, numbers, numbers, numbers. Whoever retains the majority in an area ultimately wins it, and that's how it goes. Um, Again, I will say that I do sort of prefer this method over the other, where it's the minority rules. So I'm referring to authoritarian states or things like that, where a relatively smaller population can just push over a larger one just because they have the military might or something like that. I'm not a big fan of that. Um, but again, it is a problem, and it's because of this problem with democracy, with numbers, that likely I'm about to end this off here. Likely, there will be a time, or there will be times like we've seen with Bosnia, like we've seen with Kaliningrad, and others, many other examples, where it's just going to become either genocide or some sort of thing to try to push for a majority, or and to try to change one's culture, one's voting preference, or anything like that, um, just because of the fact that they have somehow retained some sort of majority. Again, it does suck because it can lead to unfortunate situations like the Bosnian genocide, where one literally discriminates on somebody else just because of the fact that their culture is not deemed to be right. Um, and obviously, we're assuming that human rights here is a good thing and all that good stuff. I I presume, like it seems intuitive at least. So, anyway, I just wanted to make this video to sort of talk about maybe guess a bit of politics, brush up on my old Macedonia video, um, and sort of talk more in general to try to, um, just talk about one sense of the problem where the Macedonian problem stems from. Um, so yeah, please leave a comment if you liked it. Um, Keeping up with Macedonian politics today, just sort of an off the side aside comment. It does seem like slowly but surely Macedonia is descending into chaos. As we know, if anybody's read, their government has just been dismissed and they're going for elections. And so it'll just come to more pandering. Probably politicians will start pandering to the Albanian politicians. That would be the best case scenario. The worst one is if they don't, and then they get pissed off, which from what it looks like will happen. Anyway, I'm just ranting on now. So I hope you guys enjoy this. Uh, Again, please like, comment, anything like that. Tell me you liked it. And yeah, hope you guys enjoy this, and I'll see you guys next time with new content and better content and more videos, I promise. Anyway, all right. See you later, guys. Peace.